Good morning, students. Can you hear me?
Yes. Good morning, sir. We
Yeah,
can
good
hear you.
morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you. Yes.
Yeah. How many online? I could see how many online participants are.
Three members available, sir. Three members available.
Okay. What's your name, please?
KBS Vidushan.
And the other
KBS
two?
Vidushan. Liana Vaduke. Dilesh.
Okay.
I am
Now,
Liana.
okay, you can hear me. I am going to start the session as we plan, right? So, if you have now any questions, you can raise me, right? I can hear you. Can you remember where we start in the last day, what we talk about? Today, actually, there are no physical students. So only the online participants are there. There are 2 sessions that I have to conduct today because I want to finish the session today. So as we planned, I am going to continue the session. Is it okay for you?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay. Right. So can you remember what we talked about in the last day? You need to talk with me, right? Because this is otherwise this will be a one-way communication, right? So you must be keep alert with me, and you can talk with me, right? So can you remember what we talked about in the last day? Yes. Can you remember, students? We talk about the yes, Liana Maduke, can you hear me? Hello? So you need to talk with me. Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Participants online? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Actually, okay. What's your name?
Liana Vaduke.
Okay, so can you remember what we talked about in the last day? We are talking about the ISLM model. Basically, we talk about the LM curve, no? Right? Which represent the monetary sector. So previously we talked about the ISLM. Before that, we talked about the Keynesian theory. In the ISLM model, the importance we highlighted, no, right? Since it basically look at the interaction between the real sector and the monetary sector, unlike Keynesian theory. So we identified the Keynesian theory in the previous discussion, very first discussion, talk about the real sector only, right? But since we are worried about this macroeconomics, right? So the behavior, since we are looking at the behavior of the overall economy, so we need to analyze the real sector and the monetary sector together, right? So that in order to support that, this ISLM framework, ISLM model provide a good foundation, since it look at the both real and the monetary sector. So in there, actually, basically, we talk about last day the monetary sector behavior. So that will explain by analyzing the LM curve, right? You may remember the LM curve. LM represent the liquidity preference and the money, money supply. L represent liquidity preference and the M represent the money stock in the economy. So that explains the behavior of the money market. So you may remember we derived the LM curve based on the money market behavior. That means based on the money market equilibrium. So LM curve represent the equilibrium in the money market, no, right? Right. So and we derived the LM curve. We identified it is upward sloping, positively sloped curve, no, right? So since it basically we look at with the equilibrium, with the changes in the income, right? We discussed how we derive the LM curve based on that, based on the changes in the equilibrium. So there we noted it is upward sloping curve, positively sloped. And we discussed last day about the shape and the position of the LM curve, right? So LM curve position means it's shifting factors basically, no, right? Since LM curve represent the money demand and the money supply, if you look at the money demand and the money supply, basically, now the money supply is the policy variable that is determined by the central bank. So it's a exogenous variable. So there is no, in our model, we cannot change the money supply. So most of the time it's stable, no, right? Money demand, actually we identified, basically depends on this income and the interest rate. So if you go further, we identify this transaction, precautionary and speculative motives, no, right? So that basically explains the money demand. So when we look at the LM curve, so the money demand side, basically since the money supply is constant and it's an exogenous variable, it mainly depends on the money demand. So the position mainly explained by the shifting factors. So one side it is coming from the money demand, right? And shifting factor. So it's that we identified as the changes in the autonomous money demand component. And the other factor we identified money supply, right? So if there's changes in the money supply, that shift the LM curve. Another important variable is autonomous money demand. That is mainly explain the some other political factors, external factors like financial crisis, etc. Right. So with respect to change in those situations, entire money demand function can be changed. Accordingly, the LM curve can be shifted to left or right. So apart from that, we discussed the shape and that means the slope of the curve, right? So mainly the slope depends on the two factors. That is mainly, since it is mainly influenced by the money demand. Money demand, when you look at the money demand function, we can identify two main factors that goes to slope of the LM curve, right? So what are those factors? So those two factors are the C1 and the C2, right? So we discussed the C1 and the slope of the LM curve, C2 and the slope of the LM curve, right? So those things we discussed last day. So about the LM curve, right? So today, and also we identified important extreme cases, right? So that is C2 is with respect to C2. Sometimes C2 become, that is interest elasticity of money demand, no, C2. And the C1 is the income elasticity of money demand, right? C1 and the C2. If the C2 and the slope mainly depends on the C1 and the C2, right? So C2 can be infinito under certain circumstances. It can be infinite or it can be zero. So those two cases we discussed, right? C2 zero means zero interest elasticity of money demand that we identified as the classical case. It's basically that's related with the classical ideas. And C2 infinite means infinite interest elasticity of money demand. So that is basically we identified as the liquidity trap, no? Right? You may remember liquidity trap. Right? Is it clear to you? Can you remember all these things? Yes, students, I'm talking to online. You need to respond.
Oh, yes, sir. Clear.
Yeah, right. So that is C to infinite means that we identified as the liquidity trap, no, right? So that is we identified as the Keynesian case, no? Right? So where the money demand function merely horizontal, no, right? As a result of that, monetary policies are ineffective, right? So those two cases also we discussed in the last day. Please remember those things, right? And today we are going to talk about this. You can see, the screen. You can see the
Yes, sir.
screen, no? Yeah, right. Today we
Yes,
are
sir.
going to talk about the IS curve, right? That is the opposite side, other side of these two explanations, IS and the LM, right? IS curve, which represent the real sector, or we call it as that basically explain the behavior of the goods market or the real sector, right? We can explain that, right? So the IS curve represent the various combination of interest rate and income, where aggregate demand equal aggregate supply or aggregate income. Right? So that means where injections equal withdrawal, no? Or we can say where income equal expenditure, no? Right? The various combinations of R and Y, interest and income, where we can get the real sector equilibrium, goods market equilibrium. We know that when we talk about the goods market equilibrium, we talk about the two conditions, no, right? One is injections equal withdrawal, other one is aggregate demand equal aggregate income, or income equal demand, no, right? Expenditure. So at these points, combining all these points, we explain the behavior of the real sector, and IS curve represent the relationship between the R and Y with respect to those equilibrium, right, in the real sector. Now here, we know that in a simple economy, we talk about investments equal savings, right? What happened for this?
Can we get the classes there?
Okay, we thought we have two sessions today. Okay, so thank you. You are coming here, right? Otherwise, I'm talking to the online only, right? Because we started just now.
Some people come.
Okay, we'll slowly move, right? Otherwise, right? So they know the class is at 8 o'clock, no? Right? They should be here as usual 8:30, no? Right? I thought you are not coming physically. Right? Okay, so now IS curve that explains the real sector equilibrium. So when we look at the IS curve, it basically explains the relationship between the interest rate and the income, where injections equal withdrawal, right? So here we take in a simple model, simple ISLM equilibrium, right? So that we know that injections equal withdrawal, where we identified investments and the savings, no, right? In a simple economy, right? So that we can take this I as an endogenous variable now, because investment depends on the interest rate, no, right? So earlier in the Keynesian model, you may remember, investment we take it as a exogenous variable. Exogenous, it's determined by the outside, no, outside the model, right? So, but now since investment is a part of that, right? In the Keynesian, in the ISLM model, right? So, and investment depends on the interest rate, right? We can take it as an endogenous variable. So the investment is an endogenous variable. Now we know that in IS curve also we can explain with the simple to open economic model, right? We can take the simple case injections as investments and the government expenditure, withdrawals and the savings and the tax, right? And also we can elaborate that model up to the open economy, taking the export and the import as well. So that means injections I plus T plus X equal withdrawals S plus T plus N, like that, right? So, but in our analysis, basically we look at the only the closed economic model, right, with the government sector in our explanations, right? So it's clear. So that is the IS curve. Basically, it shows they talk about the equilibrium in the real sector. Okay. Okay. So right now we are going to talk about first we need to derive the IS curve, right? So you may remember how we derived the LM curve previous, right? So that also based on the money demand and the money supply. So that is explanation given by the Keynesian theory, right? So LM curve we derive based on the Keynesian explanation, money demand and the money supply. You may remember last time, right? That is based on the money market equilibrium. So there we incorporate the Keynesian money demand and the money supply explanation, right? So same way, when we derive the IS curve, also we use the Keynesian explanation. So that we identified as the Keynesian cross. Keynesian cross, right? K-E-Y-S-I-O-N, Keynesian cross, right? So, okay, Keynesian cross, we will explain that one. That is what just it explained to the Keynesian cross, basically aggregate demand and the aggregate supply, no? Right? You know if you draw in a diagram, in a graph, right? Aggregate demand curve and 45-degree line aggregate supply. So that explains the Keynesian cross, right? Right, okay, right? So now we are going to derive the IS curve based on the Keynesian explanation about the real sector. So that means based on the Keynesian cross, right? So we know that goods market equilibrium, right? So that's the real sector equilibrium, right? So we identified the equilibrium occurs when injection is equal to flow, and the other one is the aggregate demand equal aggregate supply, right? So we can use those explanations, right? Now to explain the IS curve, right? So in a simple model with the closed economy, we take with the government sector, right? So our variables, you know that Y equals OY equal aggregate demand equal C plus I plus G, right? So that explanation, right? So that is aggregate demand equal C plus I plus G, right? C Y minus T you know that is YD, no, right? So disposable income, right? So consumption depends on the disposable income with the government sector. Investment I and G means government expenditure. That is the equilibrium equation. Based on that, so that explains the goods market, real sector. Based on that, we are going to derive the IS curve, right? Right. So the IS curve, as we discussed, right, we can use the Keynesian model of income determination, right, to derive the IS curve, right? So, and also if you go along with the injections and the withdrawal, right? So in a simple case, if you use, right, we can use these I and S means investment and the savings, right? So we can use the investment curve and the saving curve to derive the IS curve, right? So one alternative is we can use a aggregate demand, aggregate supply model, right? The Keynesian explanation. Other one is individual. If you look at the investment curve and the savings curve, we can derive IS curve because IS represent investment and the savings. No, I represent investment, private investment. S represent savings. Right? So therefore, we can use that one, right? So normally, IS curve is negatively sloped, right? Downward sloping curve like an in-demand curve, right? So LM curve, upward sloping curve, positively related, it's upward sloping. But in case of IS curve, it's negatively sloped, right? So we can see how it is derived, right? Now we are going to derive the IS curve, right? So based on the goods market, right? Okay, right? The one, yeah, absolutely. Right. So now we are going to talk about the how we derive the IS curve, right? The simple economy, right? So since IS curve represent the various combination of income and the interest rate, where the money goods markets come to the equilibrium, right? So we take the Y equal E, right? Within brackets YR means, so aggregate supply equal aggregate expenditure, no? Right? Y equal E. Aggregate expenditure or demand, aggregate demand mainly depends on the income and the interest rate. Because consumption depends on the income, investment depends on the interest rate. Other variable that represent the government expenditure is XOD. So we put Y and R. So that means expenditure mainly is a function of income and the interest rate, right? Yeah. Right. Right. Now we are going to first look at the initial situation, right? So any explanations you need to start with the from the beginning to end, right? What is happening, right? So in our when we explain the derivation of the IS curve, right? You need to explain from the beginning to end, right? First we task on the initial situation. So this is Y equal U curve means that is the 45-degree line, no? Right? Equilibrium income equation, right? Now we have the below we represent the IS curve, right? We are going to derive the IS curve, right? Okay, right? Now first aggregate demand, right? So aggregate expenditure curve, normally we know that we draw. So that is C plus I plus G, right? Aggregate demand or aggregate expenditure equal C plus I plus G, right? So it's denoted as EYR 0, right? So that is the aggregate demand curve. AR0 means that is the autonomous part, no? Right? Autonomous part, right? At the zero level of income, right? So this is our aggregate demand, aggregate supply. This is the Keynesian process, right? So this is the Keynesian process. In the first diagram, it shows the Keynesian process, right? Where it explains the aggregate demand and the aggregate supply. Based on that, we can derive the equilibrium, right? So the equilibrium, we know that established at the point of A, where aggregate demand equal aggregate supply. So the relevant income level is given as Y0 level, right? So from that, we can take one point in the IS curve because we have the given level of interest rate. R0 is the given level of interest rate, no? Right? That's the money market. No? If you go to the money market, we talk about money market, money demand and the money supply, you know. With the interaction of the money demand and the money supply, equilibrium interest rate is determined. So if you draw the money market as well here, right? So the equilibrium occurs at the R0 interest level, right? Interest rate, and the income level is Y0. So that is the one point of the explanation that we are going to talk, right? Actually, right? So that's the point A. We can take that is R0, Y0, no, right? We can mark R0, Y0 here, right? R0, Y0, right? Okay. So that is the one point. So then we look at, to take the second point, right? We need to talk about the changing factor of aggregate demand, right? So we assume interest rate decrease from R0 to R1. If there is a decline in the interest rate from R0 to R1, right? So we know why, what happened. If there is a decline in the interest rate, because interest rate goes to change the investment, right? In our model, investment mainly depends on the interest rate. If there is a decline in the interest rate from R0 to R1, investment demand increase. Investment demand is a part of aggregate demand. As a result of that, aggregate demand increase. So therefore, aggregate demand curve shift upward to the right, right? So since there is a decline in the interest rate, and as a result of that, there is a rise in the private investment. So as a result of that, we know that equilibrium moves from A to B, right? In the first diagram, right? So that is the second point. Point B is the second point of the IS curve, right? So where we get the two new interest rate R1 and the income level Y1, right? Because you know that when there is a decline in the interest rate from R0 to R1, aggregate demand increase. As a result of that, income increase. So we know as a result of that, income increase from Y0 to Y1, right? So taking those 2 points into consideration, we can derive the IS curve. First point is the point related with the A, right? Second point is the point related with the B, 2 interest rate and the 2 income level. If you draw the IS curve, we can see the downward sloping curve, right? So that is IS. Now it's mainly influenced by the investment, IR, right? So since we are looking at the simple case with the government sector, right? So IS curve is a downward sloping curve, negatively sloped, right? So we derive the IS curve based on the real sector equilibrium, right? Okay. So that any point on the IS curve represent real sector equilibrium. So we can take number of combinations where we can relate the interest rate with the income, right? So in any of these points, we can identify that there is a real sector equilibrium, right? Along the IS curve, it represents the real sector equilibrium, right? Okay. Now, if we take the point C, right? Point C is below the IS curve, right? Point C is the below the IS curve, right? Now, point C, if you mark, that is related with the R1 interest rate and its relevant income level is Y0, no, right? R1 and the Y0, right? So that is not the real sector equilibrium. So any point below the IS curve, so there is an excess demand. Aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply, right? So that is the situation. Any point along the IS curve, we know that Y equal E, no, right? Aggregate demand equal aggregate expenditure. Or in other words, injections equal withdrawal. If we talk about the simple economy without government, I equal S, no? Any point along the IS curve. If we take with the government sector, I plus G equal S plus T. Any point along the IS. But any point below the IS curve, it represents aggregate demand is higher than aggregate income, no? Or that means injections are higher than withdrawal. I plus G is greater than S plus, right? So any point below the IS curve, injections are higher than withdrawal, or in other words, aggregate demand is higher than aggregate income. So there is excess demand for goods. In other words, at the point C, we can identify excess demand for goods, right? So that is not the equilibrium in the real sector. Any point above, if we take any point above, point like D, right? Point like D is opposite way. There is a excess supply of goods, right? Excess supply of goods. Or withdrawals are higher than injections, right? So that means Y is greater than E. Aggregate income is higher than aggregate expenditure, right? So those points are not stable points, right? Since aggregate demands not equal, aggregate supply or injections are not equal, right? So there should be adjustment as a result of that. So at the point C, since there's excess demand, we know that according to the Keynesian explanation, there should be a movement up to the point B, income level should increase, right? Since there's excess demand, it's automatically encourage the aggregate supply, right? So if there's excess supply point like D, there is a disaccumulation of goods, right? Production cut down, right? That kind of things. Because since there's excess supply, producers will cut down the production, that reduce the income level. So point D is not stable, it moves point up to point A like that, right? So, so that is the situation in the up and below the IS curve, right? So any point along the IS curve represent the equilibrium in the real sector where aggregate demand equal aggregate supply. In other words, injections equal withdrawal. But any point above and below, those are not equilibrium points. You must be able to understand the situation, any point above and the below, right? Now in the Keynesian first diagram, if you look at the first diagram, right? Now I will if you look at the first diagram here, I will draw that one, right? Keynesian cross, now this is the aggregate demand. Earlier we take aggregate expenditure, C plus I plus G, right? This is the 45-degree line, aggregate supply over income, right? Right, so this is the equilibrium, the Keynesian cross. Right, so that is the Keynesian cross that explains the aggregate demand and aggregate supply, right? Right, so this is the aggregate demand equilibrium and this is the income level, right? So at the point E, we know aggregate demand equal income, right? But any point below Y star, right? We take the Y star is the equilibrium. Any point below, if you take a point like Y1 or point like Y2, so those are not equilibrium point, So that also we identified excess demand, excess supply, right? So that is the relationship with the IS curve, right? Now here aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply, or injections are higher than withdrawal. I plus G is greater than S plus T, right? But here aggregate supply is greater than aggregate demand. In other words, that means I plus G is less than S plus T, or I less than S, right? Withdrawals are high, right? So if the any point below the Y star, since aggregate demand is higher than aggregate supply, right? What happened? So there is a upward movement, right? And here, actually, since aggregate demand increase, right? So actually, we need to look at this income level increase, right? Income level increase, right? So that is when I plus G injections are higher than withdrawal. production accumulate. Production accumulation. Production accumulation, right? Stocks increase, right? That means income also increase as a result of that, right? So increase production, right? So encourage production since there is a demand side factors driven the economy, right here, right? Aggregate demand driven the economy, right? So accordingly, production encourage, stocks are accumulation, right? Stock accumulated, right? But here, other side, when aggregate supply is greater than aggregate demand, so then S plus D is greater than I plus D. So actually production, cut down production, right? Since the stocks are now there is excess production, right? Producers cut down production, disaccumulation of stocks, right? So that actually reduce the production and income, right? So therefore, income aggregate supply reduce, income reduce, right? So here we see the stock accumulation, stocks disaccumulation, right? Close concept, increase production. Here the cut down production, right? All these things we can explain with respect to that, right? So that is basically explain the Keynesian process, right? So finally we know that according to the Keynes explanation, this when aggregate demand equal aggregate supply, that explains the equilibrium, right? So the Y star point, right? Right. Right. So that is now we identified the slope of the IS curve is negatively sloped. It's a downward sloping curve like demand curve. So we derive the IS curve based on the Keynesian explanation. Right? Both IS and LF curve derived based on the Keynesian theory, based on the Keynes ideas. So that's why we say Keynesian theory is the building block of the ISLM model. Right? So the basement coming from the Keynesian theory in developing the ISLM model, right? Since both IS and the LF curve derived based on the Keynesian explanation. Right. So now with the government sector, we know that. So in this, we can talk about this I plus S with the government sector, I plus G equal S plus D, right? Y equals C plus I plus D. So we can use that one, right? So the aggregate demand curve is I plus G plus C plus I plus G, right? Or I plus D equal S plus D. That explains the real sector equilibrium, right? So along the IS curve, right? Now you can use with the government sector, right? So how it is in the Keynesian clause, Y equal aggregate demand equals C plus I plus D, right? So those variables, the aggregate demand, we know exogenous variables, but income and the interest rate depends on the within the model determined, right? So any changes in the autonomous components shift the aggregate demand, right? If there is a rise in the government expenditure, if there is a rise in the investments, right, that shift the IS curve, aggregate demand upward sloping according to the equilibrium change. Based on that, we can derive the IS curve, right? So this represents the injection curve. This is the injection curve, right? IS curve, right? So that is the government sector. Or if it is simple economy, we can say C plus I only, right? So we can derive the IS curve, right? Now with the government sector, so the IS curve, so we can derive like this way based on the Keynesian explanation, right? Now, how we can derive that is one explanation, no? We derive the IS curve based on the Keynesian process, right? Apart from that, as I told you, we can derive the IS curve based on the investment and the savings, right? So we can identify the investment curve and the savings curve. So our investment curve, as we discussed, and we one day will talk about, you may remember, right? Depends on the interest rate. No? Investment depends on the interest rate. It's a downward sloping curve. Since when the interest rate increase, investment demand decrease, no? Right? So there's a negative relationship with respect to change in the interest rate and the private investment. And the savings, it depends on the income, no? Right? Savings curve depends on the income. S is a function of Y, right? So based on those two explanations, so we can derive the IS curve. Now we are going to derive the IS curve based on that. So what is the nature of the savings and the investment curve? Right? Based on that, we can derive the IS curve. So those who are joining online, you can hear me, no? Online participants, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, sir,
Hello?
you can hear. Yes, sir, here you can hear. We can hear you.
Okay, right. So now what is the savings function, right? Now we are going to derive the IS curve based on the savings and the investments, right? So we need to draw the three curves, right? Finally, we are going to derive the IS curve. So this is the investment curve that explains the relationship between the interest rate and the investment, no? Right? So this is the investment. Right? So investment is a function of interest rate negatively related, no? Right? So in other words, we can write our investment function I0 minus I1R, no? You may remember, right? We talk about that, no? Right? So it's negatively related when the interest rate increase, investment, private investment increase, no? Right? So the interest rate is the cost of capital. Higher cost of capital. There is a rise in the interest rate that you know that it make it river projects will be viable, no? Right? So this is the investment curve, right? Depends on the interest rate, negatively related, right? And the savings. So this is our savings function, right? Savings, we know that it depends on the income, no? It's positively related, no? Right? So our saving function, you know that minus A plus 1 minus B by D, no? Right? So that is our saving function, no? It's related with the income, 1 minus B by D, right? We will now savings, right? SY minus T, right? Okay. So now we take one interest rate, lower interest rate, R0, right? So this is the I0 income investment, right? At a lower interest rate. So we take the R0 interest rate, lower interest rate, and higher investment. Higher investment are associated with the higher savings, no? Right? We take the simple case, I0 equal S0, right? I0 equal S0, higher savings associated with the higher income, right? Y0, right? Okay. So now we have the R0, I0. I0 associated with the S0 savings level, that is basically given by Y0 income level. So we have the R0, Y0. 1 point we can derive. Y0 is the higher income level compared, right? Since we have a lower interest rate, right? So that is one point on the highest curve. Now we take interest rate increase, right? Interest rate increase, right? Now interest rate increase from R0 to R1, right? You can see a investment decrease as a result of that, no, right? From I0 to I1, right? From I0 to I1, right? R1, I1. I1 is lower investment level compared with the I0, right? So the lower investment associated with the lower savings, we'll take I1, S1, right? So that is explain another income level, lower income level than the Y0 income level, right? Because there's a lower savings, no, right? Okay. So R1, I1, S1, Y1, R1, Y1. R1 is the higher interest rate than the R0. Y1 is the lower income level than Y0. So based on that, we can identify 2 points, right? We can derive the IS curve, right? So IS curve here we derive based on the investment and the savings. Okay. Yeah. Simple, no? Right? So we need to assume 2 interest rate, lower interest rate and higher interest rate, right? At a lower interest rate, higher investment, higher interest rate, lower investment, no? Right? Because the investment depends on the interest rate. And we know that equilibrium condition is I equal S simple economic we take, no? Right? If there's a government sector, you have to take I plus C plus S plus two like that. So this is the savings, then it becomes injection, withdrawal. Right? We take the S plus T, right? So that becomes withdrawal. Right? Now here simple economy, it's savings curve only represent savings only, right? So I1, S1, so the income level, right? I0 is level, I0 S0 means equilibrium, right? That associated with the respective income level, Y0. So we can, based on that, we can identify the 2 points in the IS curve. Combining those 2 points, we can derive the IS curve, right? Now that is savings and the investment, because IS represent investment and the savings, no? Right? So based on the investment function and the saving function, we can derive the IS, right? So that also downward slope in negative relation, right? Earlier we discussed how we derive the IS curve based on the Keynesian cost, no? Based on the Keynesian explanation in income determinations, so we identify that also downward slope. Okay, right? So that is okay, no? Right now you know how to derive the IS curve, right? So we derive the IS curve based on the Keynesian theory, right? And the LF curve also we derive based on the Keynesian theory, no? Right? Okay. So IS curve is negatively related, it's downward sloping curve, right? So which represent the real sector, no? Right? Along this IS curve, we know that it explains the equilibrium in the real sector. Since we derived the based on the I equally injections equal withdrawal, no? Any point on the IS curve, right? So it's a real sector equilibrium. Any point below the IS curve, not equilibrium, no? And we discussed point like this C point, if you take point D, right? So those points are not equilibrium points, no? So point below the IS curve, you know that there is excess demand, right? Injections are higher than withdrawal, right? Any point above the IS curve, there is excess supply, right? Withdrawals are higher than injections. So those are not equilibrium points, right? So since there is a disequilibrium, there is an adjustment in the economy, right? Moving to the equilibrium situation, if there is operating through the automatic, right? Based on the aggregating fund, right? Right. So now you know how to derive the IS curve, right? So we derive the IS curve based on the gains and costs and based on the savings and the investment behavior. Right. Now we are going to discuss the shape of the IS curve. Like we discussed same. We are going to like the shape, positions, and the shape and the position. Right. Here we are going to look at the slope of the IS curve. Right. Slope depends on here. Mainly it depends on the savings and the investment. Slope of the saving function, slope of the investment function. Because I represent investment and savings. So slope of the investment function. What is the slope of the investment function? That we identified as I1, right? Interest elasticity of investment. Interest elasticity of investment. And the other one is slope of the saving function, right? So what is it? Slope of the saving function. So is given by 1 minus the marginal propensity to savings. Right? So those are the two factors that determine slope of the IS curve. One is the interest elasticity of investment, I1, and the other one is the marginal propensity to consume, 1 minus T, right? So you must be able to identify the slope based on the nature of the I1 and NPS. Sometimes NPS is high or low, no? Right? Sometimes I1 high or low, right? So based on that, slope of the IS curve depends. Right? Now we can take the investment, right? Slope of the investment function. Right? So that is the interest elasticity of investment. I1. Sometimes there may be high relations between the interest rate and the investment, right? Earlier we talked about the interest rate and the money demand, no? And the lend, right? Now here, the interest rate and the investment, right? If there is high sensitivity between those two factors, right? So if the interest rate decrease by the central bank, if there is high potential to increase the investments in the economy, there is a high interest elasticity of interest. So then actually that affects the slope of the IS curve that we discussed. If there is high interest elasticity of investment, slope of the IS curve become flattened. Right? If there is a low interest elasticity of investment, slope of the IS curve becomes steeper. Right? We have the steeper IS curve if there is a low sensitivity between the interest rate and the investment. Why is that? Now, if there is a low sensitivity, meaning there is a low relationship between the interest rate and the investment, what is the shape of the investment curve? ඉරෙසරේ ගන්න බෑ මේකනේ. අර වෙතන තියෙන්නේ. Now the I1 can be, so that is the interest elasticity of investment. It can be low or high, no? Right? Right? Low mean low sensitivity, low relationship, no? Right? High mean high sensitivity. Small change in interest rate, change the investment significant, right? If there is high sensitivity, right? So if there is a low sensitivity, what is the slope? Slope of the IS curve is steeper, wherever වැඩි, right? But in the high, we have the flatter IS curve. Because this depends on the investment, no, right? If there is a high, I1 is high, what is the slope of the investment curve? So I1 is low, what is the slope of the investment curve? Investment curve is steeper, no? Steeper, more steeper. So you can see here, steeper curve, no? Even though the interest rate decreased significantly from R0 to R1, right? Interest rate decreased significantly, but investment increase marginally, no? Right? From I0 to I1. This change is more power, but this change is less, no? Right? We have the more steeper curve, right? That means low I1, no? Right? If there is a low I1, if the IS curve, if the investment curve is steeper, then IS curve also become steeper. Same slope, no? Right? Investment curve is steeper, IS curve also become steeper. If the I1 is, this is I1 low, right? I1 low. If the I1 is flatter curve, so I1 investment curve is high. I1 high, no, right? So we have the flatter, no, right? So that means if there is a decline in the interest rates slightly, right? But investment change significantly, no, right? Up to I2, no? With respect to decline in the interest rate from R0 to R2, no, right? Investment decrease from I0 to I2, right? Significant. I1 is high, no, right? High sensitivity. So that means IS curve also become flatter, right? So we have the one factor that goes to a slope of the IS curve is interest elasticity of payments, right? So you know that basically influenced by the investment slope of the investment curve, right? If the slope of the investment curve is steeper, IS curve also becomes steeper. Steeper IS curve result in the low sensitivity, no, right? Flatter IS curve or investment curve as a result of the high sensitivity between the interest rate and the investment, right? Right. So that is the first factor, no, right? Other one is, what is the other one? Slope of the saving function. Slope of the saving function. Slope of the saving function. So that is NPS, right? Now savings function, we know that minus A plus 1 minus Py, right? YD. The simple economic Y. This is the slope, no, right? NPS. No? This slope can be high or low, no, right? Our saving function, you know the shape, no, right? So we go. Saving function can be like this, no, right? Can be steeper or flatter, no, right? Yes. Right? Now here the steeper means you know that the income, this is the income, no, right? When income increase, yeah, more steeper, right? Savings also increase significantly, no, from S0 to Y is 1, right? Right? Income increased by Y0 to Y1 by 5%, but savings increased by 20%. Savings change is high, no? Right? So that means we have the steeper, relatively steeper saving function. No? So if there is a steeper saving function, what happens to the slope of the IS curve? It also become steeper. If you have the flatter saving function, that means so like flatter curves in income increase from Y0 to Y1, savings change, no, right? Significantly, no, right? Savings increase from here to here, no, right? Sorry, I guess. Right? Made a mistake. Initially, we have the here and savings increase from here to here, no, right? S2 to S0, no, right? Likewise, no? If you have a now this one is steeper, right? MPS. What is this nature? MPS is low, no? Right? Yes. Steeper curve means MPS is low, no? Right? Low sensitivity. Flatter curve means MPS high. Right? Right? Everybody? MPS low means we have the steeper same function. IS curve also becomes steeper. Right? And if you have a flatter saving function, that means MPS is high, no? Right? Sorry, IS curve becomes steeper, no? Right? In this case, right? Here in IS curve become flatter, right? Finally made a mistake, right? So we can explain that one, right? Now, if you look at, I draw the one diagram, right? To explain all these situations. So here we have given, no? We can see slope of the saving function MPS. High MPS means we have the steeper. Steeper will be the IS curve, right? If the MPS is high, so that means the situation is MPS high means we have the flatter saving function. We get steeper IS curve, right? We have the steeper saving function, that means MPS is low, no? Right? So we get flatter IS, right? Now if we same thing we can explain in the one diagram. Now this explanation you can use to derive the IS curve as well. The one diagram, right? We are going to know the four curves, right? Now here it's represent the interest rate and the investment, right? The relationship. What is the relationship? Investment, no? Right? So this is our investment function, IR, right? Now this is the equilibrium equation, right? Equilibrium situation, I equal S situation, right? For the time being, we take the simple economy, right? So this is the saving function, right? S, Y. Simple economy, savings depends on the income, right? Now based on that, we make a color equivalence done. The colors are only few colors. Other colors are weekend. You know how to change the colors? Only one color. So, no. Right, okay. Sure. Taking on take Thanks. Right. So now we take the one, now let's take lower interest rate, right? R0, right? Lower interest rate associated with the higher investment, I0, right? Equilibrium means I0, S0, right? I0, S0, right? So that level is associated with the particular income level. Let's take Y0, right? Right? This is the R0, Y0. We can identify one point here. So the same thing we can use to derive the IS level as right? Now the second point we can take, right? Now higher interest rate. Higher interest rate, let's say R1, right? Lower investment associated with the lower savings, I1, S1, right? So the lower savings means lower income. Y1. We can take another point, right? So combining these points, we can derive the IS, right? In one diagram, we can derive the IS, right? We take the investment function. This is the equilibrium, I equal S. So this is the saving function, no, right? We can derive the IS. Two interest rate we consider, right? You can derive easy, right? Now we take the, now we are looking at the slope, right? If the slope is, this compared with this is steeper, we have the kind of steeper, right? If we take the slope flatter slope, right? More flatter. Right. More flatter. What is the situation? Now R1 same points, right? We take this one as same point, right? Y0, right? Okay. Then R0 is associated with Y2, no, right? R0 is associated with Y2. So then you get flatter IS curve, right? If the saving function become flatter, IS curve also become flatter, no, right? If the savings flatter savings, right? If the savings, no, right? Flatter so normally in a flatter steeper curve, even though the income change, savings does not change. Low sensitivity, lower NPS. Flatter mean high NPS, no, right? NPS is high, no, right? NPS is high, we get flatter IS curve, right? NPS is high. NPS is high. If there is a high sensitivity between the income and the savings, no, right? We get flatter IS curve, right? Okay. Flatter IS curve. It becomes steeper if there is a if the steeper saving function that means the low sensitivity, low NPS means lower NPS represent steeper ISL, right? Right. So those are the two factors, right? How we identify NPS and the NPS. You must be able to explain the situation, right? What are the factors that determine slope and the position of the ISL? So we discuss slope depends on the two factors. One is the interest of investment, and the other one is the marginal propensity to savings. And the slope of the IS curve determined, right? And the position of the IS curve, we didn't discuss, right? We need to think about that. Is it clear? There will be a question from this area, 2 questions at least, right? One is the calculation part, right? Some question, right? So I will discuss some questions today, right? This practice those things, right? Definitely there will be a question, right? You can get more marks, right? To those all marks, right? You are in the okay, right? And this explanation is very much important, right? What are the position? What are the factors determine? So what factors determine, right? So you need to explain those things using the graph, right? Okay. So based on the marks given, right? Normally, right? But to just outline the factors that determine the social, you can just explain. Right? The marks is given high, you need to explain it the explanation, right? Otherwise, you are not getting all the marks. Okay. Right. Now this is clear, right? So those are the slope, right? So then we look at now this is the one, right? We explain in the one diagram, no, right? Saving, investment, savings, and the ISK, right? So the investment function, right? So we can take that one also as one diagram, right? You can practice, no, right? That T, that investment, savings, and the one curve you can go with higher, steeper investment curve, and one is the other investment curve, and see how to solve of the IS curve. This is separate, savings, investment we take, right? If we have the saving function, if you have a steeper, IS curve also become steeper, no? Right? Those relationships you can do, right? Now, if you take this one, I1, right? Steeper investment, right? So we take R1 is the R2, right? Let's say R2 is the lower interest rate, associated with the I2, right? Higher investment. High investment associated with the savings. R2, S2, that will end up with higher as a result of higher income, that can be gain, right? Higher saving, at Y2, Y2 prime income, right? Like that, right? So then if we take the high interest rate, R1, lower investment, R1, I1, S1 means so the lower income level Y1, right? Combining those 2 points, you can derive the highest, right? R2, Y2 prime, no, right? R1, Y1, right? R1, Y1. So those 2 points, we will get flatter IS curve. If the investment curve is flatter, IS curve also become flatter. If the investment curve is steeper, IS curve also become steeper, right? So based on the relations, right? So you know how to explain this one, no? Right? You can take our lower interest rate associated with the higher investment associated with the higher saving, because I equal S, no? That will gain by higher income level, no? Combining those 2 points, interest rate and the income, we can derive the highest. Right? So the slope of the saving function we discussed, right? So that is marginal propensity to savings, right? Slope of the saving function. So that actually is steeper that means higher NPS. Right? Higher NPS means we have the steeper saving function. We get but in the steeper IS, no, right? Likewise, right? Right. So then we are moving to the factors that determine position. What are the factors in the IS, right or left? So what are those factors? So those are the factors that we identified as exogenous in our model. What are the exogenous factors? Autonomous. Now in our model, investment, one part is there, right? Our investment function, you know, right? Sorry? It will stop sharing. Can we stop the share? Can we move that one? I can't move that. Huh? Ah, this one. Ah, right. Yeah, I don't know, right? But the technical persons are right. Thank you, right? So what we talk, yeah, right. Factors that determine, right? So now here, now our y equal d y I plus I r plus d, no, right? Now here, our consumption function, you know that a plus b by d. Investment function, now we can write it as I0 minus I1R, no, right? Government expenditure function is autonomous, G0, no, right? Now, what are the autonomous variables? Autonomous one, I1, government expenditure, no, right? Those are the autonomous expenditure. So with respect to changing those autonomous expenditure, right? Now we can take YD if we take, right? YD means Y minus T, no, right? So if we assume the autonomous tax, no, that also comes, right? Autonomous tax function. If the tax is, we can, if we assume T bar lump sum tax, no, right? Lump sum tax, right? That also comes as a factor. Lump sum tax. Fixed amount, no, right? So there is lump sum, no, right?
Sir,
Hello,
sir.
right? So then what are the
Hello, sir.
autonomous expenditure? T, lump sum tax, government expenditure, autonomous investment. No? So if there's a change in
Hello,
the
sir.
autonomous investment, autonomous government expenditure, and the autonomous taxes, entire IS curve shift. Let me go right. Those are the shifting values. Yes, if you have any question?
Oh, yes, sir. We can add subsidiary. Can you add to the y minus t plus?
Yeah. That also we can add. But mainly as now the taxes we will take into account here, right? So that also
Okay.
autonomous. If there's a
Okay.
subsidy, that also autonomous, right? So with respect to change in the subsidy also, yes, curve will be changed.
Okay.
But normally we take basic important thing as autonomous investment, those are highly changed, no? Government expenditure highly changed, and the taxes highly changed, right? So that goes to shift the IS curve. So those are the shifting factors. So we can identify three shifting factors, right? One is the autonomous spending, government spending, autonomous investment demand, I0, and the autonomous tax, TC, right? Only the autonomous tax, right? If there is a proportionate tax, that will not. Only the autonomous tax, right? So those are the three factors, right? Now you can take increase in the government spending, right? Now we are going to incorporate, earlier we discussed only the investment function, no? Right? Government stopping, right? If we incorporate government sector, that becomes I plus T. So that become, we will call it as, now we are going to call it as injection function, not the investment, injection function, no, I plus T, no, right? So that is only investment and the government expenditure, no, right? So if there is a change in the injection function, no, right? If there is a rise in the government spending, right? So what happened? This curve shift to the right, no? If this shift to the right, this is constant, saving function is constant. IS curves also shift to the right. If there is a rise in the government spending, right? IS curve shift to the right, right? Okay. If there is a decrease in the government spending, IS curve shift to left. Because expansionary government policy, fiscal policy actions, raising the government expenditure, shift the IS curve to the right. If there is a contraction in fiscal policy action, under that, if the government cut down its expenditure, IS curve shift to the left, right? Like this government cut down some expenditure in the budget, right? That will cause to shift the IS curve to the left. Fiscal policy action basically affect to the IS curve. Right? Monetary policy action basically affect to the L1 curve. That means, right? Fiscal policy actions are the government expenditure and the tax, no? Right? So those are the shifting items in the IS explanation. Now we are going to talk about the government expenditure. Raising the government expenditure from G0 to G1, right? Raise the injection function to the right, right? Okay. Shift the investment function to the right, right? So as given by I plus G0 to I plus G1, right? Now the saving function is constant, right? So if you take the 2 points R0 and R1, right? We'll take R0 initially, right? R0 means I0, G0 injections, right? Now we are writing I0 plus G0 injection, right? Earlier we write it as I1, I0. Now this is the injection function, right? And R0, I0 plus G0, relevant equilibrium, we can take I0, G0 plus S0 plus T0, right? In the saving function, right? It's given by the particular income level Y0, the point E, right? Right? Now we have the R0, Y0, that is the point here, point E, right? So we can have the IS curve, right? Only taking 1 point, right? So this is our IS curve, IS0, that is the initial IS. Now suppose government expenditure increase from G0 to G1, under the expansionary fiscal policy action. What happened to the injection curve? Injection curve shift to the right because higher injection, no? Right? Raising the government expenditure will increase the injection. So will have a positive impact on national income. No? This curve shift to the right at a given interest rate. Interest rate right? So R0, now we have the higher injection I0 plus G1, right? So associated with the higher withdrawal, I0 G1 plus equals S1 T0, right? Something you can take differently, right? We have to take the different savings, but tax does not change, same tax, no, right? We are not change the tax, but savings, domestic saving can be changed. So we have the higher equilibrium point, right, related with the injections and the withdrawal as a result of that. It is given by I0 plus T1 equal S1 plus T0. Since there is higher injection, that will increase the income also, no? And that can be a higher income level Y1. Okay. So we have the R0, now Y1, same, no? Right? R0, Y1 income level point E prime, right? E prime point we can take. Right? So that is another point, the IS curve, right? So if you look at that point, that means we see IS curve also shift to the right, right? Based on me. So what is this R0 mean now? Like we discussed, that is clear, no? Right? Now you know how to derive, no? Right? If there is a rise in the government expenditure, that shift the IS curve to the left. Right? So now R0, now is earlier injection is I plus G0. At the higher, with the rise in the government expenditure, injection increase at the same level of interest rate. Right? So that, can you remember, we talk about now if there is a increase in the government expenditure, aggregate demand income increase, income increase, consumption increase, again aggregate demand again consumption increase, income increase, like that, right? That we explain under the Keynesian theory multiplier process, right? When income, when the government expenditure or any exogenous variable change, there will be a multiplier effect on income, no? According to the Keynesian multiplier theory. So that explained here, because Keynes look at the given level of interest rate. There is no change in the interest rate at that explanation, right? According to Keynesian theory, at the given level of interest rate, when there is a rise in the government expenditure, there will be a multiplier effect on income. Income increase from Y0 to Y. So this explains multiplier delta G 1 minus P. What is the government expenditure multiplier with the autonomous tax? 1 over 1 minus P. Right? Total change is delta change into 1 over 1 minus multiplier. Right? Delta change into multiplier. Right? So that explains change in income from Y0 to Y1. Okay. So that is the at a given level. We can identify this multiplier. Okay. Is it clear? Right. So that is how we are going to derive the IS, shift the IS curve with the government, right? So if there is a decline in the government expenditure, we know that opposite way, no, right? That means injections reduce, no, injection curve shift to the left. As a result of that, IS curve also shift to the left, right? Right. So then what happened if there is a raise in the taxes or increase in the taxes or decline in the taxes? Shifting that is also shifting factor, no? If there is a raise in tax, what happens? Tax means as a withdrawal, no? Right? So there will be a negative impact on national income. Right? Higher taxes shift the IS curve to the left. Right? Because that reduces the income, no? Right? It shifts the IS to the left. If there is a increase in taxes, that shifts the IS curve to the left. If there is a decline in the taxes, it shifts the IS curve to the right. So decline, sorry, in the taxes means so favorable impact for the business to expand, right? There will be encouragement, right? So that will rate on message, right? So, so that means as a withdrawal, right? Decline in the withdrawal means there will be a positive impact on income, right? So that shift the IS curve to the right. If there's a decline in the taxes. So that also a shifting factor, right? So you can take in a diagram, right? So that key diagram you can use, right? So for an example, right? Now this is the investment, no, right? So this is the equilibrium. Now this is I plus G. This is S plus T. This equals I plus G. So this is the same. S plus T. This is the withdrawal, no, right? Now we can take these points, no? One thing. R0, Y0, here is 0, B0, I0, G0, right? YC. This is the 1 point, right? So this is the IS curve, right? So if there is an increase in the taxes from T0 to T1, right? Taxes raised, no? Right? What happened? This curve, sorry. Injection, sorry.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Is it okay?
Yeah. Still now
Okay.
there is a problem. That's right. So now we are going to derive this IS curve with the change in the taxes, right? The one diagram. So otherwise we'll take now here the injections that also change. That's why I have so this equilibrium. And this equilibrium must be. If there is a rise in the taxes, right? So that means withdrawal. Withdrawal that will actually whether is now this one actually we have draw. There is a decline in effect of income, right? Now this curve actually we need to draw this way, right? Taxes. Withdrawals. So now we'll take the same points R0. This is equilibrium, right? 45. And that will be associated with S1, E1, I0, T0, right? Taxes change from T0 to T1, right? So that will actually if there is a rise in the taxes from T0 to T1, right? So there will be a negative impact on income, right? So income decrease, right? from Y0 to Y1, right? So that means at the same interest rate, lower income, right? So we draw that point, right? So we know that IS curve shift to the left, right? Higher taxes reduce the IS curve, shift the IS curve to the left, no? Right? So from since income taxes increase from T0 to T1, right? Shift the withdrawal curve, right? And also IS curve to the left, right? Okay. Now we can explain that way, right? So that is the second component, right? Shifting factors, government expenditure, taxes, and the investments. If there's a change in investment, this curve should to the right, no, right? You can draw it, right? So this investment curve shift to the right, upward to the right. So then you can check the changes, right? Accordingly, you will derive like AS curve shifted to the right, right? If there is change in the autonomous investment. If there is a rise in the autonomous investment, this injection curve shift to the right, no, right? I plus G curve shift to the right. Other things remaining constant. You draw the line that way, right? You see IS curve shift to the right. Right? Now we take this way. Now the autonomous investment, right? Autonomous investment. So you can see here, right? So this is our investment. This is our savings. This is the IS curve, right? R and I, S and Y, right? R and Y, right? Now, if you take the investment, autonomous investment, right? Simple economy, this is simple, right? Lower investment, R0, I0, right? Assume simple economy. I say simple economy, right? So I'm not taking with the injection. This is the investment, right? I0, R0, I0, right? Associated with higher savings, right? I0 is 0, right? With higher income. And R0, I0, S0, Y0, R0, Y0, right? R0, Y0. We'll take that. This is the point, right? This is the IS curve, right? So this is T0, T0, right? T0, T0, right? Now, if there is a rise in the investment, right? Autonomous investment, right? Autonomous investment increase, right? As a result of that, this curve shift to the right. Now we can take at the given interest rate, we have the I1, no, right? Higher investment. So that is above, right? I1, S1, bro, associated with the higher income level, right? Y1. So R1, I1, I1, S1, Y1, R0, Y1, higher income. So that means IS curve shift to the right, no, right? So if there is a change in autonomous investment, no, right? Likewise, you can derive, right? Okay. Now you know how to derive these curves, right? You can use simple one, right? Very easy one that T X, right? Know to derive the equations. Derive the AS curve, combining investment savings and equilibrium, right? And when we explain in the shifting also, right? You can use that one also. You can take separate diagrams to explain this. Right? So please practice those things and try to explain this each and every graph, right? Using your own words. Right? So you must write the story behind this, right? How this is happening in the two ways, like that way, right? You can use it your own way. So you can explain the behind what is happening, right? How the changes in such component force to shift the IS to the right or left. Right. Okay. Right. We will take. Then I can get this straight, right? So that's okay, now, right? Load journey, right? Okay, if you have any question, you can ask. Is it okay so far? Now we talk about the slope of the IS curve and the position of the IS curve. What are the factors that determine slope and the position? Okay. So we can take a few minutes break, right? So we'll start after the break.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you explain the what about the exam procedures and what is
So I will
time?
give you later, right? So those things I will explain, right? So at the end
Okay,
of
sir.
our discussion, because we have 2 sessions to go, right? Today,
Okay, sir.
evening, after 12 to 3 sessions also we have, right? So
So
at that session I will explain, right?
okay,
So,
sir. Thank you, sir. I think to one request on previous online quiz, I lost my marks. Happen in the some technical issue. So can you get the alternative things to cover that's losing
we have,
marks, sir?
you can recording is there, no, right? So
No, I talked with my online quiz exams assignment
online
regarding the
what's your
assignment.
name? What's your name?
KBS Vidushan, number 15.
You have communicated with me, no, last time?
Oh yes, sir. I all days I participate the classes also.
No, for the classroom test. Did you
For
participate
classroom
for
was
the classroom test? Did you
yes,
participate?
sir. Yes.
What
I
happened with it?
participate, but
You
not
have a technical
I
issue.
or technical is not saved, sir. Can so mama
Yeah, you
classic
actually you
kara
have sent me that the
message
screenshot
also.
also. No? Okay,
Also,
can you send me your the WhatsApp? Now I will arrange. Now there are 3 students, right? I will arrange
yes, sir.
a special test for you, right? Online test. I will
Okay,
communicate
sir.
with you because my WhatsApp is all the messages deleted, right? You can send me your request, right?
Yes,
To
I
the WhatsApp
or
group, right? To send me separately, right? Not the group, right? Send me
okay,
separately.
sir.
I will communicate with you, and we need to incorporate other 2 students also. If you know them, please ask them to send me a personal WhatsApp message to me, right?
Okay, sir. I will
Okay.
send it. Okay, thank you,
We will
sir.
arrange extra test for you, right? Those 3 students I noted last time, right? We will
Okay,
have
sir. Okay, thank you.
extra examination, right? Okay. So I will let
Okay,
you
sir.
know
Thank
the
you, sir.
date and time, right? Probably in the evening I will arrange. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. You send me the WhatsApp message, then I can keep a record with you, right? I will inform you, right? Okay.
Hi, sir.
Hi, sir. Hi, sir. Hello. Hello. Yeah. Hello. Yes, sir. Any question? Hello. Do you have any questions to ask? So we'll give you a small break, right? After the break, we'll start. If you have any question, you can raise meantime. No problem.
Sorry. Can Hello, sir. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Yes. Now, you attend all the questions in the online test. Why you need to see the marks? Finally, the last stage, you getting to cover the technical problem. So, never mind. I will take it and probably from the next week, I will publish the marks in the classroom. Then you can take the marks, like see, I didn't get it from the office, the marks of this. Once I receive it, I will upload this. Right.
Someone did not upload the experts. And then they were finished, but the cover page looked like very normal. It's like we have. Is it okay to be color? Can you see? Did you see? Oh, nothing. Yes, in fact. Yeah, I think we are pushing like a normal book, very black and white and very plain paper. Yeah, that's okay, but service that shows the stand and the so like we don't there's some feature situation. You can look like that, we have to spell it.
Okay, that is start. Right now, we talked about the previously factors that shift the ISL, right? Shifting factors, we identified the factors, those are autonomous expenditure. Right? Shifting factors are the autonomous expenditure. So one is the autonomous investment, other one is government expenditure and the taxes. Right. Now we have to understand, you have understanding about the IS and the LN, right? We talk about both IS and LN curves, right? Now we are going to talk about the equilibrium. So based on the ISLN model, right? So we can explain the equilibrium in the ISLN model, right? So that equilibrium brings towards the equilibrium in the real sector and the monetary sector, right? Since the ISLN represent the real sector and the monetary sector, right? Okay. So now ISL equilibrium explains the real sector and the monetary sector equilibrium, right? So as you know, ISL represents the real sector equilibrium. LF curve represents the monetary sector equilibrium. So that explains the macroeconomic equilibrium. So unlike equilibriums in the Keynesian model, right? So where we identify the equilibrium in the real sector only, right? Since this is explain equilibrium in the both real sector and the monetary sector, this is more similar to the general equilibrium analysis that we identified in the very first lecture, right? When we talk about the macroeconomic equilibrium, right? The macroeconomics talk about the general equilibrium analysis compared to the microeconomic equilibrium as we identified in the marginal equilibrium analysis, right? So since the real sector, monetary sector equilibrium, right? Both real markets, goods market and the money market, right? We assume the foreign exchange market also in equilibrium, right? So that's a kind of general equilibrium analysis. Actually, so there is an extensive model of this, right? With the open economy as well, right? But we are not covering that one as a principles of economics, right? So that explains the equilibrium in the foreign exchange market as well. Then we look at the money market, capital market, and the foreign exchange market as well. That is called ISL BB1. ISL BB. Another step we go right further, right, in order to identify the external sector as well. Like we discussed in the previous open economic macroeconomic model. So that also can incorporate. Now, so far we talk about the closed economy ISL model. So we can extend up to the open economy as well, right? So that is all another model, ISL BB model. But we are not referring that one, right? So we are stopping here and we talk about the closed economy ISLM model, right? And the equilibrium we talk about the closed economy model, right?
Now we know the equilibrium, right? So IS curve we know represent that is C plus I plus T x minus, sorry, C plus I plus T, right? We take. And the injections I plus T, withdrawal S plus T. Injections and the withdrawal. And we take the monetary sector where money market in equilibrium, right? So that is happen when money demand equal money supply. Money demand, we know that that we identified as the liquidity preference, no, right? So we identify the money demand function. Money supply is the real money balance M over P. Right? So money demand equal money supply. So the money supply is the M over P. We know the money supply. What is it? That is the real money balance. YL means those are the two factors that explain the money demand, no? Right? Because money demand function mainly depends on the transaction and the deposit and the stipulated module, right? So that explains the income and the interest rate, right? In determining the money demand function. So this is the money demand, right? Or liquidity preference. L means liquidity preference, right? So that's relationship, right? So the LM curve represents the money demand equal money supply. So if we take all these things together, right? IS and the LM, equilibrium in the goods market, equilibrium in the financial market, no? Right? So that is IS and the LM represent the equilibrium in the model, right? So that will give us equilibrium interest rate and the income rate, right? So that is the equilibrium, right? So that's the kind of equilibrium that we explain, right? With the overall economic behavior, right? Since it incorporates the real sector and the monetary sector, right? Interaction, right? So ISLM equilibrium, right? Right. Now, now this is the simple explanation, right? So we can look at this goods market, money market equilibrium, right? How it is achieved, right? Based on the ISLM equilibrium, right? Now, we are first going to look at this is IS curve, right? We know that we derive the IS curve is downward sloping, negative slope curve, right? So normally we write IS, right? So these are the within brackets. What does it mention? So those now we have the G0, T0. Those are the government expenditure and the taxes. Basically, those are the shifting factors, no? Right? Shifting factors, no? Right? Government expenditure is one shifting factor, tax is another shifting factor. Or in other words, fiscal policy affect to the IS curve, right? Okay. And the LM curve, LM, right? It's a positive slope, no? Right? LM curve upward sloping curve, right? So we need the LM curve shifting factors. What are the we identified there? Changes in autonomous money demand, changes in money supply, right? And also there is another one, price level, right? So far we didn't talk about the prices, no? Right? Price level, right? So we assume price level is constant in our first assumption, right? But if there is a change in the prices, that also goes to change the LM because you know the real money balance, money supply. MOP is the real money balance. There are the P is so far we assume it is constant. If there is a change in the prices, real money balance change, no? Right? So that will affect the LM curve, right? So therefore, price level also one factor we can take. But so far we assume price level is constant, fixed, right? But later on we will take flexible prices. That goes one extension, right? Under the flexible prices, how this is explained, because prices going to be changed. Right? Other one is the money stock, no? Right? Money supply. So that's also another factor. Normally, when we draw the LM curve, right? We denote these shifting factors M0, T0, no? Right? Money supply and the price, right? So that is ISLM. The intersection point gives us the equilibrium in the ISLM model. We get the equilibrium interest rate R0 and equilibrium income Y0. Point A denotes the equilibrium. No? So at the point A, we know that all the conditions are satisfied. No? Aggregate demand equal, aggregate supply equal income. No? Right?
injections equal withdrawal. I plus T equals S plus T in our model, no? Post-economic model, right? So at the point A equilibrium, we know that simultaneously achieve the equilibrium in the real sector and the equilibrium in the monetary sector, no? Right? So that's a kind of general equilibrium analysis. If we assume the foreign exchange market also equilibrium at this income level, right? Okay, right? Now Y equal V. At this equilibrium point, Y equal V. Money demand equal money supply. Real sector and the monetary sector is the equilibrium. Real sector equilibrium, Y equal E, or in other words, we can write it aggregate demand equals C plus I plus D, or in other words, Y equals C plus I plus D, no, right? Or in other words, I plus D equal S plus T, right? So that is the real sector equilibrium, Y equal E. Money demand equal money supply means money demand C naught plus C1Y equals money supply, M over P, real money balance, right? So the equilibrium established at the point A, right? A productivity given, right? But equilibrium is here, right? Okay. At the intersection point, right? Now any other point, what is your opinion? Right? At this point, at the point A, at the intersection point, money demand equal money supply, aggregate demand equal aggregate supply, injections equal withdrawal. There is no excess money demand or excess money supply. No? There is no excess injections or withdrawal, no? Right? Money demand equal money supply. But any other point is not the equilibrium, right? Now, if you take the point B, what you can see? What is point B? At R1 interest rate and Y is income level. Is it the equilibrium point? Point B is not an equilibrium point, no? Even though it is lies on the IS curve, right? Where we can achieve the goods market equilibrium, there only we see the real sector equilibrium only, no? Right? But monetary sector equilibrium not happen, no? Not occurred at this point, because it is not the point on the LM curve. Point B is not the point on the LM curve. Only the point on the IS curve. So the IS equilibrium, real sector equilibrium is there, but monetary sector equilibrium is not there. Now you can see the point B is below the LM curve, below the LM curve, and it's on the IS curve. On the IS curve, injections equal withdrawal, no? Y equal E. There is no aggregate demand, no aggregate supply. There is no excess aggregate demand, no excess aggregate supply. So real sector equilibrium, but it is below the LN curve. What is the situation below the LN curve? What is the situation? Below the LN curve, point B lies below the LN curve. This is the LN curve, below the LN curve. Below the LN curve, there is excess money demand, right? So in the previous discussion, we talked about how we derive the LN curve, right? Based on the money market equilibrium. Below the LN curve, there is excess money demand. Sorry, excess money demand, right? Excess money demand, right? So that's not the equilibrium, right? So there is excess money demand, right? That is Y equal E, but money demand is higher than money supply, right? Money market equilibrium not occurred at this point, right? So therefore, it is not an equilibrium point, macroeconomic equilibrium point, right? And so if there is a, since there is a Y equal E, but excess money demand is there, no? There will be a pressure on. It will move up, right? There will be a pressure on interest rate to rise, right? Okay. And if you take another point, right? Now point C, where are the point C? Somewhere here, right? What is the nature of the points? Anyone can write? Is it the equilibrium? That is not the equilibrium point, because it is not the equilibrium point in any of the curves, right? It is not on the IS or LN. Please
above the LM curve and above the IS curve, right? So that is not the point C is not an equilibrium. So what you can observe in the point C, it's above the LM curve. Above the LM curve, there is excess money supply. And also it's above the IS curve. Right? Above the IS curve, what is happening? There is excess demand for goods. Excess supply of goods. There is excess supply. Withdrawals are higher than injections. So at this point. So therefore, we can see point C is not an equilibrium because Y is greater than V. There is excess supply of goods at the point C. And also, there is excess supply of money at the point C because it's above the LM curve. Above the IS curve, there is excess supply of goods. Right? So, therefore, it is not an equilibrium point. Right? So, likewise, you can think about any other points. Right? So, let's look at that one, right? Now, we draw the. So, this is our ISLM, right? We assume price level is constant, right? So, this is the equilibrium. R0, Y0, right? So, we take the points, right? Now, point A, point B, point C, point D, right? Different points. Right? Only at the point E, that is the equilibrium point, right? Aggregate demand equal aggregate supply. I plus D equal S plus D. And also money demand equal money supply. Right? At the point E, right? At the point E, right? If we take the point A, right? There is excess demand for goods. Excess demand for goods, right? I will write it as ED 0. Then excess demand for money. EM. Right? Excess demand for goods, ED 0. Excess demand for money, EDM, right? Now, what is the situation in point A? Point A, it's below the IS curve, right? Below the IS curve, what's happened? There's excess demand for goods. No? And also, point A is above the LM curve. There's excess demand for it's above the LM curve. Excess, sorry. And there's another one, no? Right? Excess supply for goods. excess supply of goods EX0, right? And the excess supply of money. Supply of money. EXM, right? Excess supply of goods EX0. Excess supply of money EXM, right? Okay. We can write ES, no, right? Sorry. Write this. S0 ESM. Right? Right? Now, what is the point A? So there is a LM curve. Above the LM curve, there is an excess supply of money. No, right? Excess supply of money. Okay. At the point A, above the LM curve, there is excess supply of money. And below the IS curve, excess demand for goods. Okay. So if there is a excess demand for goods, what happened? So it will increase, income increase, right? And the excess supply of money means interest rate increase, no? Right? Right. We are just like that. That is not a stable point. If there is excess demand, income should increase. If there is excess supply, interest rate should increase, right? And point B. What is the situation? Point B. Point B is below the IS curve. There is excess demand for goods, right? And below the LM curve, excess demand for money. Okay. Point B is below the IS curve, excess demand for goods, ED0. And below the LM curve, excess demand for money. Right? If there is excess demand for money, interest rate should increase. Right? If there is excess demand for goods, income also should increase. Right? Can we have. And point C. Point C. Point C, there is a, what happened? That is below the LM curve. Excess demand for money. And above the IS curve, excess supply of goods, no? Right? Excess supply of goods, no? Right? If there's excess supply, income reduce, there's excess demand for money, interest rate may go up, no? Right? Excess demand for money. Below the LM, right? Excess demand for money, and above the IS, excess supply of goods, right? So that will change, no? Right? And point D, we take the point D. So that is above the LM curve, excess supply of . excess demand for above the excess supply of excess supply of goods, no, right? Any point above the IS curve, excess supply of goods, and above the LM, excess supply of money. See, there's excess supply, interest rate increase, excess supply, income should decrease, no, right? So likewise, now we can understand any point above or below, right? IS curve, right? Those are not stable points, no? And either there is excess supply or excess demand for goods for one, right? So only the equilibrium point at the intersections we see, right? So, aggregate demand equal aggregate supply, injections equal, right? Now we can talk about the injections and withdrawal as well, right? So any point below the IS curve, that means excess demand means injections are higher than withdrawals, right? That's excess demand, right? Injections are higher than. Any point above the IS curve, withdrawals are higher than injections. Right? Any point above the LM, is excess supply of money. Any point below the LM, excess demand for money. Right? Okay. So we can discuss those things. That is the situation in the ISLM, right? Point on and off, right? Some of the table points, right? The section point, the equilibrium in both real and the market sectors. Okay, right. So you can understand the situation, right? So taking now actually when we derive the IS and the LM curve, right? So based on the money market and the goods market equilibrium, right? You can understand the situation, right? Below and above those IS and the LM curves. Right. So that we discussed, right? So equilibrium, right? Now the connections, how we can outline those connections, right? Now first we see the goods market, right? So this is the asset market, means the money market, financial market, no? Money demand equal money supply, right? Goods market, aggregate demand equal aggregate supply, Y equal E, right? So the Y equal E in the goods market equilibrium, we explain Y equals C plus I plus E, real set equilibrium. Money market equilibrium, money demand equal money supply, right? Right. And accordingly, the interaction between the real and the monetary sector determines the equilibrium income level, right? So that we can identify, right? Now, and also interaction between the real and the monetary sector, we know that. So, especially monetary sector, money market determine the interest rate that will impact on the goods market as well. And the goods market basic variable, the income, that will impact on the money market as well. Interaction, right? So that we explained it in our discussions, right? When you look at these the changes in the variables, right? How these two markets, so two sectors, real sector and the monetary sector, interact with each other, right? So this income and the interest rate, right? Variation. If any variable change, right, that will impact on income and interest rate. Right? Through that interaction, right? Finally, the equilibrium income and the interest rate is determined, right? So that is the interaction. So we look at this interaction between the real sector and the market sector through the main determinants, income and the interest rate. So the interest rate is determined in the money market, income is determined in the goods market, that will interact with each other, right? So that explains the ISL, right? So two curves, that is the real sector and the monetary sector, right? Right. So that is the intersection, connection between the real sector and the monetary sector. The whole thing we discuss now, right? Money market and the goods market, real sector, we derive the IS here, right? With this T plus I plus V, injections equal withdrawal, right? And the money market, the LM curve, we derive, right? With the intersection, with the interaction between the money demand and the money supply, money market, right? And then we talk about the equilibrium. Equilibrium determine the equilibrium income and the interest rate. Right? So now we need to apply this model. You know the model things, right? Basically, variables that determine the slope of the curves and the position of the curves. With that knowledge, we can explain further. Okay, is it clear? Right. So now we are going to apply the model means. We are going to apply the policies, right, into our model. Right? And we look at the policy effectiveness, policy effects, and the policy effectiveness. How the fiscal policy, if we are implement, it affect to the real sector. This common expenditure policy and the tax policy, basically. It affect to the goods market, and through the interaction, it affects the money market. Finally, equilibrium is determined. And the monetary policies affect the LM curve, right? Money market, basically, right? And through the interaction, it affects the real sector as well. And finally, equilibrium, income, and the interest rates. So that mechanism we are going to discuss. Finally, we look at which policies are more effective under what circumstances. Because we need to talk about the slope of the curves. When we talk about the effectiveness of the policies, the slope of the curves, two curves are very, very important. Now we discuss the slope, right? We identify the basic factors that determine the slope of these two curves, right? So then we use the monetary fiscal policy actions and we see how far these policies are effective in determining the income. Achieving the government goal, high income or like right? So that is our intention. In this simple or the cost economy model, we are going to discuss those things, right? Right. Now, first we look at the now before moving to that, right? One more thing, right? So you may remember we talk about the when we talk about the LM curve, right? We identify six special case, right? C2 is 0, C2 is infinity. And you remember, right? C2 infinity, infinity equals elasticity. And the C2 0 means 0 or income elasticity. Right? Now, in the LM curve, we identify slope mainly depends on two factors. What are those two factors? LM, sorry, IS slope mainly depends on two factors we identify. Slope depends on one is slope of the investment curve, slope of the savings. Slope of the investment curve is interest elasticity of investment. So the saving function means marginal profit savings. So now if you look at the interest elasticity of investment, special case is there. One case, right? Before moving to other. Right? If I1, no, right? That is the interest elasticity of investment. Right? I1 is 0. What happens? This 0 interest elasticity of investment. 0 interest elasticity of investment. That is the one factor that determines slope of the IS curve, no, right? So we talk about if this I1 is high and low, no, right? If the high interest elasticity, we have the flatter IS curve. Low interest elasticity means steeper IS curve. Because slope of the IS curve depends on the slope of the investment function. If the slope of the investment function is more steeper, no, right? More steeper with respect to change in the interest rate, the investment is not highly responsive. Right? So that means we have a steeper investment curve. If we have a steeper investment curve, IS curve also become steeper, no, right? So what I1 is zero, if there's a zero interest elasticity, interest rate is not going to respond to change the investment, no, right? Zero interest elasticity. Even though the interest rate change, investment does not change, no? Zero interest elasticity. There can be such situation. Even though this government has a policy action change the interest rate, right? With the view to encouraging investment and with the view to encouraging income and so on. If this not sensitive or if it is not totally sensitive, no, right? Policy is not effective, no, right? So in this situation, what happened? What is the shape of the IS curve? IS curve is become vertical, no, right? IS curve become vertical. No? Even though the interest rate raise, no, right? The income does not change. No? That means even though the interest rate change, investment does not change. No? Right? Investment curve also become vertical, no? Right? And IS curve also become vertical under such circumstances. So we have the vertical IS curve if the I1 is zero. If there is a zero interest elasticity of investment, right? So that also you can think, right? The situation, right? Vertical IS curve. Right. Now we are going to talk about the policy effects. Policy effects of the ISL, right? Policy effects. So as we mentioned in the earlier case, right? Now here the two policies we are going to use, right? Fiscal policy and the monetary policy. Basically, in our discussions, we use the fiscal policy, one variable government expenditure, and the other variable is tax, right? Policy we use money supply. Central bank change the money supply, liquidity in the market, right? So those two policy actions we does. Now first we take the policy effects. Now the fiscal policy, right? Basically spending and the taxes, right? Now here we assume government raises its expenditure, right? Government expenditure, right? So increasing government expenditure, what happened? How do you know? We discuss. And if we account here in the I can tell you how is it difficult? Right? Huh? Now we need to combine, right? So the now increasing government spending, that is the shifting variable. No? We anticipate shifting variables when you look at the government expenditure, fiscal policy mainly affect to the IS curve. What are the shifting variables in the IS curve? Government spending, autonomous investment, autonomous tax. Right? So if there is a raise in the government spending, so, you know that is coming as a rejection, no? And industry, it has a positive impact, no? Right? So that shifts the IS curve to the right, no? Right? So that means entire IS curve shift to the right. If there is a rise in the IS curve in the injection, then as a consequence, shift the IS curve to the right, right? Whatever. Equilibrium change, there is a change in the interest rate and the income, no? Right? Both are increased, no? Right? Both increase, right? Right? Now, raising the government expenditure, right? This is ISLM, right? Now we take only the changing variable, G0, right? Initially, the government expenditure is G0, right? So this is the equilibrium, R0, Y0. Initially, economy is in equilibrium at E0 level. Now we assume government expenditure increase from G0 to G1, right? If there's a rise in the investment, there's a injections I plus G equal S plus T, right? So this actual raise the injections, right? Due to rise in the government expenditure, that shift the IS curve to the right. IS G1, right? Right. Increase from R0 to R1, income also increase from Y0 to R1. 42 hours. Here we assume price level is constant, actually this price, right? We are not talking the price level so far, right? If we want to talk the price level, we need to incorporate aggregate demand and the aggregate supply model, right? Right? Only the interest rate and the income change we look at, right? Equilibrium moves from E0 to E1, no, right? Interest rate increase from R0 to R1, income level increase from Y0 to Y. How this is happened? So that need to be explained, no, right? So due to rise in the government expenditure, or in other words, if we use the expansion of fiscal policy action, raising the government spending. What are the expansion of fiscal policy actions? One is raising government expenditure and reducing taxes. If there is a to the right, right? Reduction in taxes means reduction in withdrawal, which has a positive impact on income, like inflation. Shift the IS level to the right, right? So why there is a rise in the income level? Why there is a rise in the interest rate? Why? You need to explain that. Story behind this. No? Apparently, we see interest rate increase, income level increase. Right? How this is happened? That need to be explained due to this fiscal policy action. When the government raises expenditure, why there is a rise in the income? Why there is a rise in the interest rate? So that we are going to explain, right? So we need to incorporate some graphs, right? Now here we look at the, now we talk about the aggregate demand, aggregate supply, Keynesian explanation. We identified this as the Keynesian process, right? Keynesian process, right? Aggregate supply, aggregate demand, right? That is called Keynesian process, right? And initially, economy is in equilibrium at point A, right? So the aggregate demand is A0, right? Autonomous expenditure over aggregate demand. And here we can take the aggregate demand, right? Incorporate. And the equilibrium income is Y0. Now this is A0, CY means, so that is the aggregate demand, right? Autonomous expenditure, C means simple C, what is simple C? That is MPC, P, right? CY, right? Consumption depends on the income, right? In the consumption function, we identify this simple C for B, right? Marginal propensity to consume, right? So in other words, we can write it simple way, AB equals C plus I plus T, right? So that is the aggregate demand curve. This is 45-degree line, aggregate supply curve, Y equal E, right? So that is explain the Keynesian process. According to the model, aggregate demand equal aggregate supply at the point A, equilibrium income is YC, right? Now we take the money market, right? So this is the real sector. So this is the money market, right? We are going to incorporate, right? Money market forces, money demand, and the money supply we identify. So the money demand is liquidity preference, right? Money supply is MS. Take the money supply curve vertical, right? Why? Well, it's a policy variable. Central bank determine. It's an exogenous variable. Since it is been an exogenous variable, we take it as vertical, no? Right? But money demand curve depends on the income, no? Right? So we take downward sloping. Money demand and the money supply, the money market equilibrium occurs at the point A, same point. Interest rate equilibrium are zero. This is the real money balance, no? Right? Okay. So the M over P means, M means very important, right? Just remember, right? M means money stock, P is the price level. So far we assume this price level is constant. Right? So this is the real money balance, that is the money stock equilibrium, money market occurs at point A. Likewise, at the same level of income, right? Y0, Y0, right? Now we are going to incorporate ISLM equilibrium, right? So that actually explains the money market and the goods market equilibrium, right? Same point, right? Okay. So the real sector point and the monetary sector represent both real and the monetary sector equilibrium at the intersection point of the IS. Okay. So that is the equilibrium. This is the initial situation. So first, anything when we are going to explain, you need to identify the initial starting point. From that, we need to explain the changes, right? Now, what we are going to discuss, we are going to look at the fiscal policy steps. Raising the government expenditure. Government expenditure increase, right? So, what happened, right? Now, raising the government expenditure, right? Right, delta G portion, right? The government expenditure changed by delta G, no? Right? Yes, right? So that's a part of aggregate demand, no? Right? Aggregate demand increase. So aggregate demand increase, aggregate demand curve shift upward to the right, right? From A0 CY to A1 CY, no? Autonomous expenditure increase from A0 to A1, no? Right? Because change in the government expenditure. So autonomous expenditure. It's upward slope, right? This is the change, no? Change in the autonomous expenditure, right? Equilibrium moves from A to B, right? Equilibrium moves from A to B. The equilibrium income increase from Y0 to Y2, no? Right? What is that? Explain. That explains the Keynesian multiplier effect. No? And you remember, when the government expenditure increase, there is a direct and indirect effects, no? Due to the direct and indirect effects, equilibrium income moves from A to B. Income increase from Y0 to Y2, right? That direct effects explain when the government expenditure increase, aggregate demand increase, income increase, direct effects. Then there are a series of indirect effects occur due to change in the consumption, right? Because when income increase, consumption increase, again it's a part of aggregate demand, no? Aggregate demand increase, again income increase, that it will happen. That we explain is direct and indirect effects. So as a result of that, economy moves from A to B, right? Due to the direct, that's explained by Keynesian multiplier, right? Now, A to B, we can write it as multiplier effect. Delta G into 1 over 1 minus D, no, right? 1 over 1 minus D is the multiplier, we assume, this lump sum tax case, right? Delta G into 1 over 1 minus D is moving from Y0 to Y2, right? Okay. Now that is the fiscal policy action, real sector effect. No? When there is a rise in the government expenditure, aggregate demand increase, income increase from Y0 to Y2, right? Now, how it is incorporated, right? Now, when government expenditure increase from G0 to G1, right? That is the injections, IS curve shift to the right, right? IS curve shift to the right, okay? But now there is a effect is not similar to the income change from Y0 to Y2. Why? Because we take interest rate effect also here. No? In Keynesian theory, there is no consideration about the interest rate effect on the income, right? That's why income increase from Y0 to Y2, no, due to the multiplier effect. Right? But that's not explain the impact coming from the money market is does not explain here, right? But now we are going to incorporate money market effect as well. Right? Now we know that with the rise in the government expenditure, IS curve shift to the right, right? That will happen from the shifting the IS curve to the right, right? If there is a prevailing interest rate, we assume the interest rate prevail at the initial level R0, economy moves from Y0 to Y2. That's true, no? Right? You agree? අපි හිතුවොත් පොලි අනුපාතය වෙනස් වෙනවක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. money market එකේ change එකක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා that explain the pure Keynesian theory, right? Then income increase from Y0 to Y2, from A to B, right? Okay. So income increase from Y0 to Y2. That explains the multiplier. This difference explains the multiplier delta G into 1 over 1 minus B, right? But we know that when government expenditure increase, aggregate demand increase, then income increase, no, right? So due to rise in the income from not Y0 to Y2, but certain level income increase, right? Let's say assume income increase from Y0 to Y1, right? When income increase, what happened? There is changes in the money market equilibrium, no, right? Money market, money demand increase under the transaction and proportionate motive, no? Money demand curve shift to the right, okay? Due to rising the income from Y0 to Y1, not Y2 level, right? So as a result of that, there's a, since the money market is in disequilibrium, no? You know how to explain that one. They create at the prevailing interest rate R0, there's excess money demand. Since there's excess money demand, interest rate increase from R0 to R1. When interest rate increase R0 to R1, the equilibrium is ordered in the money market at point C, right? So now the money market comes to the equilibrium at new interest rate R1, right? So at R1 means what? Higher interest rate than R0, no? When there's a high interest rate, what happens? That reduce investment demand, no? Right? So higher cost of capital, no? Right? There will be a lower investment demand compared with the previous R0 level, right? That discourage investment, no? So that's a part of aggregate demand. Aggregate demand also decrease, and income also decrease. Therefore, what happened? Equilibrium comes to point C, right? So that explains income increase from Y0 to Y1, not Y0 to Y2, due to rise in the interest rate, right? Due to rise in the interest rate, actually what happened is here, private investment crowd out, no, right? Okay. So that is the other side of this story, no? Right? So that's why we are not ending Y2. It comes to Y1 again, right? Due to rise in the interest rate. This interest rate effect, no? Right? Due to rise in the interest rate, actually we know that two things happen. One thing is it reduce the aggregate demand, right? And reduce the income level as well. Covering more different, no? Right? So finally, equilibrium restored at point C, right? So that explains net increase, no? Right? Net increase in output, right? So that is the full story. Is it clear? Huh? Okay, there is the government expense, fiscal policy action. The same thing, right? Now, in other words, actually now government raises expenditure, right? 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 When the government raises expenditure, how the government finance this expenditure? That does not explain in the Keynesian theory. But when you incorporate money market, that can be explained in a kind of practical aspect. How this expenditure is financed by the government. Government demand money, no, right? Government come to the fund market, no, right? She treasury bonds, no, right? Government demand money, no, right? Funds from the private sector, no, in the money market. Government issue treasury bills in the money market simply.
Treasury bonds, treasury bills, money and capital market, this is financial market, typically, no, right? So when the government demand more funds in the market, what happens? Interest rate increase, no? So government comes to not only private sector, government also comes to the market and demand money. Now that is happening, right? Central bank control the interest rate. No? This purely market determined, there will be a pressure on interest rate because every time government should treasury bills, billions of treasury bills in the market, no? Right? For the borrowings, right? So that pushes the interest rate. Right? So when the government demand money, private sector will look at, right? Their profitability, no, right? Safe side, no, right? Investing funds, no, right? More funds will be higher interest rate, more funds will be diversified to the government. No? Private sector subscribes those treasury bills, treasury bonds. Money with the private sector goes to the government, right? So money, those money, they cannot invest in other business projects, no? Right? So that will crowd out private investment. So this Y2 to Y1 explain crowding out effect. So that is the crowding out. Real crowding out effect occurs due to rise in the interest rate. Earlier we did KCL theory not recognize the interest rate effect on income, no, right? It's purely explain the total effects without explaining the interest rate effect, without money market involved, right? By looking at only the real sector, no? To the multipliers, right? So that's why Y0 to Y2 explain multiplier effect. Delta, sorry. This explain the multiplier delta Y, delta G, 1 minus B. Delta G into 1 minus. Okay. So then finally, due to this policy action net effect, we see income increase from not Y0 to Y2, income increase from Y0 to Y11. Right? That actually due to rise in the interest rate, private investment will crowd out, that will have a negative impact on income, right? Income decrease as a result of that. Finally, the net impact we see income increase from Y0 to Y. Okay. See here, no? Right? So you try to write it, right? Starting point, right? From you take the starting point, point A, right? Initially, the both markets are in equilibrium. It is the point, the ISLM point A, no? Right? Represent the real market sector equilibrium. With the expansion and fiscal policy action, raising the government expenditure, shift the aggregate demand, right? So due to direct and indirect effect to the multiplier effect, income should increase from Y0 to Y2, right? So when income increase, we know that money demand increase, right? But not Y0 to Y2 level. So right? Money demand increase, right? So when the rise in the money demand explains shifting the money demand function to the right, as a result, there's a rise in the interest rates, right? When there's a rise in the interest rate, it will round down the private investment and income, right? So therefore, we can see the net effect on output income level raises from Y0 to Y1, right? You need to explain the money market equilibrium as we discussed earlier based on the money demand function. That's it, right? The method මුලින්ම වෙන්නේ ආදායම් වැඩි වුණාම ගනුදෙනු හා ආරක්ෂණ චේතනාවට මුදල් සප්ලයි වැඩි වෙන්නේ, right? So then that Y component increase, no? C1 with money demand increase, no? So then there is adjustment in the interest rate. As a result, money demand under speculative motive decrease, no? That's why again money market equilibrium restored at that point C. If you look at the real situation, how this money market equilibrium re-establish the equilibrium by looking at the money demand function, we must be able to explain. Right? Money demand function changes from that also you can incorporate here. Right? You really want to explain deeper matter, right? So that is the government expenditure policy. Is it okay if I ask you someone to explain this one? Can you explain? Can you explain? Can you? Just try that. So I will give you, I will stay here. One day you must be there, right? Among you, and you of you, right? Can you go to the whiteboard and explain? 5 minutes. Try to explain. Here, you have given these, right? You can start, right? Come, just try. This is a chance, opportunity to give us try. One day you must be here. So in class or something, you can be a lecturer, right? You need to do that, right? When you are completing your professional exams, you try. As a professional chartered accountant, you get lecturer, right? Must be here. Up. You know, just try. What do you do? When there's a question like this, you need to answer. You will get the total marks, right? You need to explain the full story behind this. What is happening? What happened in the how it is happened? Like that, just take the opportunity. Come. Father get again from other. Then, us. Okay, come. So this is interactive. But underneath is then others can realize, they also can think, right? Yes, and ease, explain things. Right? Therefore, who can do this? Fine. Anyone? No one here. Parvula? It must be able to. No one. Try to explain. Now, if you come and explain here, right, you will remember that thing, right? Very well, right? Those things, right? You will recognize the things that need to be incorporated further, right? That will be added at much. Please come. It's the opportunity given to us. Right? Take the challenge. That is also at mind, right? Kalpana, come on, and your friends are there. Right? Come. Okay, right? So the ladies take the challenge, right? Of the boys. Okay, you can explain. Now, let's assume you are a teacher, right? So now you have given now. This is the fiscal policy action. Starting point into that.
Because commercial market, the graph explained the equilibrium of pressure is from the air represents that the equilibrium. Then if we take
Now, first you have to explain the initial figure.
initiative
Where the money market and the real estate equilibrium.
in money market graph, the equilibrium is in position in this area. Then, according to fiscal expansion situation, equilibrium will shift to right. Then, the change the equilibrium, the money market in the money market equilibrium or also shift to right. Then new equilibrium represent by B in the goods market. In money market, new equilibrium represent by C The net impact represent in the third graph. It represent the net increase in output and